Dudes, I don't know about this.
I peek into the bathroom, watching as Carl stares at himself in the mirror, running his fingers through his hair.
You look great.
Raven stands back, grinning with a tremor in his paws, looking Carl up and down.
Tell him, Chase.
Carl looks at me, and I have to agree that he looks quite a bit better. You look fantastic. A lot cleaner.
Thanks.
Now, take a shower.
Before Carl can say anything, Raven shoves the mall bag into Carl's chest before slamming the door in his face.
Man, this is going to be great. If the interview was based on looks alone, he'd get to have that job locked.
Yeah, probably. And so with that, we move to the living room and wait. Half an hour later, Carl shuffles in quietly. We don't even know he's there until he clears his throat.
How does it look?
He looks good, but I'm more concerned with the fact that he looks more insecure than I've ever seen him. He shifts from hoof to hoof, not making eye contact at all, his fingers pulling at the rolled-up sleeves.
Oh my God, that looks fantastic. There's no way you won't get that job now.
Raven sounds genuine enough, but then again, he's always excited. Carl looks over at me and I give a start, realizing how bad my silence must have seemed.
You do look great, Carl. But...
Raven chuckles, and Carl's eyes widen.
What?
The beanie. You always wear that beanie?
Carl lifts a paw to it.
Usually.
You can't wear that. How do you even get it on?
It's stretchy, and my head fur looks awful.
Seriously, you can't wear a beanie to an interview.
Carl's getting all fidgety again, so I butt in. Wear it. Hey, I actually think it looks kinda nice with everything else you've got on. Carl glances at me, but stops fidgeting with the beanie. Raven looks at me, then back at Carl.
Well, all right.
Carl sighs and shifts around again. We watch him expectantly.
Dudes, this feels weird is all.
It's new. You'll get used to it.
I pull out my phone to look at the time. All right, we really need to head out. We should get there early. As we head to the door, Raven makes as if to follow us. I kick myself for forgetting to talk to him earlier. I turn around to face him as Carl heads out the door. Hey, Raven? He stops.
What's up?
So, after the interview, me and Carl and our other friends, we're gonna be doing something. Raven raises his brows.
Oh?
Oh, it's not that we don't want you to come. So I really wouldn't mind having his upbeat attitude present at what will surely be the biggest downer of the week. It's just that... It's really personal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, seriously, you wouldn't want to come. We're gonna be talking about some heavy shit. Raven seems to perk up a little at that.
Oh. Well, I wouldn't want to intrude. I'll just hang out here then.
Yeah, we'll be back soon, okay?
Sounds good. But you have to tell me how the interview goes. I know he's going to do amazing.
I will, and he will. See you in a few. Carl looks confused as I come out to the car alone.
Where's Raven?
I sit down and make a show of buckling my seatbelt. So I wanted to tell you this after the interview so you didn't have more to stress out over.
What?
I pause as I back out, pretending to be distracted so I can gather my thoughts. So, Leo wants us to meet up at the lake.
The lake? The lake?
Yeah.
Why?
Closure, he says. Carl stays quiet as we drive through Echo, and I swerve to avoid all of the potholes. As I'm merging onto the highway, he finally speaks up.
I think that's a good idea. Like, we've been sitting on this for how long? We should do it while we got the chance.
I nod my agreement. I just hope everyone else feels the same. We fall back into silence, and it stays that way for the remaining 20-minute drive. Carl gets more nervous the closer we get. I can see his knees bouncing out of the corner of my eye as he stares out the window. I reach out and put a paw on his shoulder as we pull into the parking lot of the print shop. You look awesome, and you're going to do amazing. Carl starts taking deep breaths, staring out the windshield. Just be yourself. Everyone loves a relaxed employee.
I wish you'd let me have a smoke before we left.
Yeah. Go into an interview smelling like pot. Great idea. Carl giggles nervously, but otherwise doesn't move.
Do you want me to go in with you?
Carl shakes his head quickly, unbuckling his seatbelt as he opens the car door.
No, man. I'll be fine.
Okay, cool. I'll be waiting. I grin at him, but he just shuts the door and ambles up to the print shop. He pushes on the doors, and when they don't move, he pushes harder, shaking the glass. I start to open my door to tell him to pull instead, but he seems to figure it out before I have to and disappears inside.
Oh, Carl.
Then I sit back and wait. I try to take a nap since I'd been up all night with Raven and Carl gaming, but the heat beating down through the windows becomes too uncomfortable. I turn the AC on, then shuffle through the stations, but I only find twangy country and mariachi. I look at the time. 10:10 a.m. If the interview started on time, then he was probably almost done with it by now. I sort of want to go inside, but I know Carl wouldn't want me to. I settle back again and close my eyes, trying to get some relief from the failing AC. Then the door rattles, and I hear haphazard footsteps. I open my eyes, but no one's there. I do catch some movement disappearing around the side of the store, and I lean around to get a better look. I wait, but Carl, at least I think it's Carl, doesn't come back from around the corner. Looking around, I slowly open my door. Carl? Nothing. Carl! I yell it, but he still doesn't come out. Feeling some dread build up in my stomach, I get out of the car and slowly walk around the side of the building. It's an alley between the print shop and what I think is a laundromat. Nothing is in the alley except for a few dumpsters and clumps of garbage. I step carefully around puddles covered in oil slick and wonder if maybe he just really wanted to smoke. Carl? Something shifts on the other side of the dumpsters and I hear sniffling. Wordlessly, I walk around the dumpster to the other side. Carl is bent over, his back to me, paws on his knees. His whole body is shaking and his breaths are ragged. Holy shit, Carl! I'm at his side instantly, rubbing his back. What happened? Are you alright? The stench of vomit hits my nose, and I don't need to look closely to know what the puddle between Carl's hooves is. Carl makes sure to turn his face away from me, not saying a word. Shit. I dash back to the car and open the passenger door so I can get to the glove box. I pull out a few napkins before hurrying back to the Ram. He takes them from me wordlessly and starts wiping his face. The last time I'd seen Carl like this was just last year, when he'd had his panic attack at school. I didn't think he'd have that problem now, after all the therapy and time away. I try to rub his back comfortingly, in a clockwise motion like my mom would do for me. He's at least not hyperventilating. He has his horns pressed up against the wall, taking deep breaths as he wipes his face again.
Why do I suck at everything?
He says it quietly, between gasps, but I can make it out. No, Carl, you're fine. Let's just get you home. I start to pull on his arm, but he yanks it from me violently.
Don't touch me!
I'm stunned into silence. I just stare at him, mouth open. He glances at me as his eyes are red and, for once, it's not because of weed. Carl starts off toward the car on his own, spitting off to the side as he does. Carl! What happened? He whirls on me.
I fucked up! Obviously! Any more fucking questions?
His face breaks apart on the last sentence, and he turns away from me as his face starts to screw up. My stomach feels hollow as I watch Carl get into my car. I've never, ever seen him like this. He immediately hunches forward, head in his paws. I slowly walk up to the driver's side door, feeling like crying myself. I sit for a while, waiting to see if Carl is going to say anything. He does.
I'm sorry.
He blurts it out through his fingers. I look over at him, scared to say anything in case I say the wrong thing.
It was a disaster, man.
He takes in a deep, shuddering breath.
He could tell I wasn't into it right away. I was awkward as fuck.
He leans back and tugs at his shirt.
This shit isn't me. And they knew it. It got me nervous. I've been nervous ever since I got my clothes. Since I got this stupid trim.
At that moment, it feels as if I've been punched in the stomach. I'm just now remembering the conversation we had on Wednesday. I closed my eyes for a moment, not wanting to believe I'd become exactly what he said I wasn't. What he liked me for not being. We sit in silence for a long, long time until Carl finally looks at me and smiles.
God damn it. We both knew this was gonna happen, didn't we? I don't know, man. And fuck me very much for taking it out on you.
It is sort of my fault.
Nope. I'm the one that screwed up the interview.
Carl settles back in his seat.
Now with that fuck up out of the way, on to the next one.
I force a smile. You sure you still want to go?
Hell no! I don't think we have much of a choice.
I sigh, looking out at the hazy horizon, in the direction of where I know Echo is. Can't wait. So with that, I turn on the ignition and pull out of the parking lot, leaving the print shop in its alley far, far behind us. Leo, TJ, Flynn, and Jenna are all gathered around the picnic table. It's set out neatly on concrete in front of the rocky shore of the lake. None of this existed when we were kids. In fact, it didn't exist when I left. Echo was trying real hard to stay alive. I don't need to get out of the car to gauge the mood my friends are in. Their shoulders slumped, faces turned away from each other. As I park, Leo's ears perk, and he turns to wave at us. I take a deep breath and turn to Carl. You ready?
Nope.
Nevertheless, he opens his door and steps out, and I do the same. The sun beats down on us, but being this close to the lake cools things down a bit. As we approach, I see Leo with his butt up against the edge of the table, while TJ sits next to him. Jenna sits next to TJ while Flynn sits across from Jenna. When Flynn turns around, he immediately zeroes in on Carl.
What the hell happened to you? Drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Out of order, bud. No, I just put it in the appropriate descending order.
Flynn rolls his eyes and then looks at me.
Hey, fuck boy. Maybe we can talk some fucking sense into this idiot.
Leo's ears are flat, but he doesn't look at Flynn.
Glad you guys could make it.
Sure. Carl sits down next to Flynn, and I sit on Carl's other side, across from TJ. The silence that follows is possibly the most awkward one of the week. Flynn snickers.
See? This is stupid.
How about we let it happen naturally, Flynn, instead of using every moment to take shots at people? Jenna's tone is icy. She hasn't even acknowledged me or Carl. TJ, meanwhile, keeps his head down, poking a sharp claw into the soft wood of the table. Flynn shrugs, and starts to do his trademark I don't give a fuck lean back pose, but gives a start when he realizes there isn't any backing on the bench.
Well, we've been sitting here for the past 20 minutes, and nothing's happened. Maybe you want to start us off?
Flynn sighs.
Well, we could talk about how I never agreed to this shit. How's Leo a complete fucking idiot for forcing this to happen, and that I wonder what he thought this would accomplish anyway? That's a start, I guess.
Flynn sets his jaw.
Of course, talk that would actually get us somewhere wouldn't be from me, and he's not talking.
The temperature seems to lower in the impossibly hot air, and I don't look at TJ to see how he reacts. After a brief silence, Leo speaks up.
How about we start with you, Flynn?
Flynn looks at Leo, brows raised.
How do you feel about what happened?
I see Flynn clench his jaw.
What?
His tone sends shivers down my spine, and I feel Carl tense up next to me. I look out across the lake, the shimmering reflections blinding me.
You never talked about it. Maybe it'll help.
Sweat pours down the back of my neck, builds up under my arms. Even with the wind coming off the lake, it's way too hot.
By telling you how the fuck I feel? How the fuck do you think I feel?
Flynn screams it, and TJ jumps in front of me.
You're just gonna keep it buried your whole life, Garabo?
I think about the time I used to come down to this spot every day and skip rocks with Jenna and TJ.
So this is how you plan to fucking get us over it? By fucking making fun of me?
I'm not making fun of you. I'm trying to help you.
Taunting someone who's felt like shit for a decade is a pretty weird way of helping.
Please, guys.
Don't you even fucking talk right now.
Don't you dare talk to him like that. We all went through this.
Calm down, Flynn. The table shakes as Flynn slams his fist down on the wood, snarling and standing up.
Tell me to calm down one more fucking.
Just shut the hell up. I stand up. Everyone turns to look at me, including Flynn. I don't say anything. I just strip off my shirt.
The hell are you doing?
I don't answer him. Instead, I take off my belt and slide off my pants so that I'm only left in my boxers. Without a word, I head to the lake. It's about 100 yards from the tables to the lake, and while most of the way there is sand, a good stretch of it is pointy rocks. I make my way carefully over this section, remembering the numerous cuts I'd gotten as a kid. I don't look back until I'm right at the water's edge, and, when I do, I see Leo following me, in the process of taking his own shirt off. The rest of them are still sitting at the table, but I don't care because this is really just for me. I step into the water and sigh at how cool it is before I wade out further. Once I'm waist deep, I dive under the water and pop up several feet further away from shore. I am neck deep at this point, and when I look back, I can see Carl now, standing at the lake's edge, paws deep in his pockets. Behind him, Jenna is helping TJ across the rocks. Only Flynn remains behind at the table, watching us all. Leo's up to his chest at this point, and I swim in a circle around him before diving under, then popping up right in front of him.
Gah! Sneaky altar!
He splashes water in my face and I cough. Don't be that way. I swim around him some more and laugh at how he flounders after me. He was always a terrible swimmer. I dive under the water again and swim up toward the shore, popping up about 10 feet away from Carl.
Having fun?
He's smiling, looking a lot more relaxed than he has all day, probably because we just avoided a situation that could have gotten really ugly. To my left, Jenna and TJ are sitting on a boulder in the shallows, TJ's slacks rolled up to his knees. Him and Jenna seem to be talking, so I decide not to play the same trick on them as I did with Leo. Flynn, meanwhile, is standing up now, arms folded. For the next little while I swim around, occasionally popping up in front of Carl or Leo, sometimes splashing them with my tail. There's a freeing feeling about finally swimming in this lake again and having so much space. Flynn, after a good 20 minutes, comes out to the shore. He leans against an old familiar boulder watching us. There's no way for me to know how they're all feeling. If it's all liberating like it is for me. Flynn is right, in a way. We can't just talk about it because there's nothing to really say. What happened, happened, and no amount of talking can fix that. What we can do, or what I can do, at least, is choose to move past it. And that's what I'm doing now. I just hope that's what they're feeling too. Eventually, I run out of the exhilarating energy that had so consumed me and instead drift to the bottom of the shallows. I lay on my back against the sand, staring up at the murky glow of the sun. I feel my eyelids get heavy and I stretch out against the soft lake bed. It is, of course, a bad idea to fall asleep underwater. If that were to happen, though, I'd probably just try to breathe, get a nose full of water, and immediately wake up. Still, I decide that it's best I avoid that, if I can, and force myself to open my eyes again and swim to the surface. Except, I can't. I'm frozen. Every nerve in my body is on fire, and I struggle not to panic, to not start trying to breathe because that's all my body wants to do. I close my eyes, will myself to be calm. Sleep paralysis usually only lasts about a minute at most for me. I can hold my breath for 8, and I've only been under for... God. I have no idea. It feels like it's been a while. My chest is already starting to burn, and that usually means it's been at least 6 minutes. And this is starting to last a long time. Despite my efforts, panic starts to set in, and it sets in quick. I start jerking my body around, trying to get something, anything to move. I don't understand why I'm not floating to the surface. I'm not trying to stay underwater. The seconds turn into minutes, and now my lungs are really burning. Something has to be holding me down. Maybe some kind of vegetation. The water begins to glow red, as if blood is spread across the surface above me. I tug and pull, praying that this is all a dream, that I'm back in Carl's room, and that at any moment I'll wake up.
You thought it would be this easy? That's a good one.
I try to turn my head toward the voice which is right in my ear, even though I'm underwater. Things go silent again. At this point, I start to contemplate that I might actually die. I can't get my body to move. None of my friends know where I'm at. And now I'm almost out of air. Bubbles flow past my lips as my lungs finally give out and blackness starts to crowd in on my vision.
He's waking up!
My eyes open slowly, painfully, and I'm face to face with a ram, his muzzle wet with tears.
Oh my God! He is! Give him room!
I feel some rough paws supporting my back, turning me on my side.
Can you breathe? Joss!
Leo's voice is ragged next to my ear. Yeah. No, I'm fine. I sit up quickly and a wave of dizziness threatens to topple me over again. I feel movement behind me, out of my field of vision.
No! No, no, no! I can't believe this! I can't fucking believe this!
Flynn's voice is torn and ragged. I barely recognize it. Calm down, Flynn.
No! We're forced to come here, then this shit happens!
Guys, I need to go. TJ, Flynn, get over here! I feel Leo's support leave me. Carl is still crouched down in front of me, though.
Oh my god, dude! What happened?
Carl's gasping, like he's the one that was just underwater. I don't know. Carl rubs my back as I rest my head in his paws. Vaguely, I can hear more yelling behind me, and Carl looks up too.
No, don't! Leo, help!
Despite my aching head, I turn around and see Flynn chasing TJ, grab him and throw him down onto the rocks. Flynn doesn't get any further, though, because Leo tackles him with such force they fly a good 5 feet before smashing down into the rocks and sand. Leo wraps an arm around Leo's neck and yanks up hard.
Jesus!
Carl stands up and starts gasping again. I try to, but I fall back down on my ass. Carl reaches down to help me up.
Shit! You're not okay!
Carl steadies me, but I'm distracted with trying to see what's happening. Leo's leaning down with his muzzle right up against Flynn's head, yelling at him. Meanwhile, Jen is crouched over TJ. Carl starts to breathe heavily again, his wheezing picking up speed. I look over at him, and his eyes are glazed as if he's watching everything from afar. Carl? Carl? What's wrong? I don't want him having another panic attack. I know I should probably stay and try to help, but I feel so fucked up right now. Besides, I don't think it will help if Carl has a breakdown. I grab his arm. Let's get out of here, Carl. He looks at the scene a while longer, then turns away. Without another word, we make our way back to the car. I get in, barely noticing that I'm drenching the seat. Looking through the windshield, I see that my friends are still in the same position that we left them. Except Jenna. She watches us as we pull out and keeps watching us until we're out of sight. Carl stays in his glazed state as we make the short drive back to his house. I can't give him much of my attention, though. I'm more preoccupied with the fact that something terrible just happened. Not only to me, but the entire group. Maybe this is a dream? Everything feels so surreal right now, like I'm watching all of this happen from 100 miles away.
I don't know.
I look over at Carl, but his expression is still glassy. He looks exactly like how I'm feeling. What's wrong, Carl?
I don't know.
You don't... I'm cut off as a large coyote suddenly runs out into the street. But she's a good distance down the road, so there's no danger of me hitting her. I watch as she tears out into the sagebrush, zigzagging around, arms flinging out in all directions. Carl and I watch her as we pass, silent. Something's happening in this town. To all of us.